Hey guys, Mouth here once again, and I've got a video for you of a full character start to finish of my latest Spectral Throw project. As you will maybe remember, my last Spectral Throw character was a full cold and dex stacking cold damage Deadeye Spectral Throw. This time around I'm doing full cold, but it is a White Wind. So White Wind is an item that has been looked upon pretty badly for most of its life, and for good reason. It's really not that good. However, just full dodge stacking and trying to take this character in as a raider so that we have a lot of evasion, a lot of dodge, and a lot of spell dodge actually makes kind of sense now, since Spectral Throw damage can be pretty nuts given the vile Spectral Throwing that you have, which is insane for single target, and the fact that my previous character, the Deadeye, had way too much damage anyway. We could afford to lose a bunch of it for some defense. So this character has a bit less life, but it's got way more dodge, way more evasion, and way more spell dodge. And ultimately also has a little bit less damage, which is completely made up for with Vile Spectral Throw. The playstyle is pretty similar, the speed of the character is fairly similar, and the weapon itself only costs like, a few chaos for a good roll, and it's not necessarily the best choice for a Spectral Throw or for even this type of character, but it is certainly an option that you can go with. And at this point, this level 91, I think, Raider has taken on Uber Elder a bunch of times, a few of those runs Deathless, and it's all about the playstyle of the Spectral Throw, comboed sometimes with the Vile Spectral Throw. So the goal was to actually try out Vile Spectral Throw a bit this current patch, because it just got updated so you can use Vile skills during the boss fights, and it actually is a pretty strong single target gain. So once again, this is just another little version of a Spectral Throw character, by no means the only Spectral Throw character. It's just always been a very strong skill and probably one of my favorites, and it certainly is a nice thing to see Vile Spectral Throw working and adding to the single target of the skill, meaning you really truly don't need any other skill for this type of spec and setup. You really can get through with just Spectral Throw, and then Vile Spectral Throw helps during the single target phases, as seen in something like that. Now, even though we're about to come across all of the clips of the end game single target and playstyle, it has been good, but I'm not going to lie, I really expected a little bit more damage and utility out of the Raider here. Raider is somewhat comparable to Deadeye in the end for Spectral Throw, especially with the Vile Spectral Throw and the evasion. You will see throughout a lot of these clips that I just straight up dodge, evade, and face tank some of these fights, even with 5k life, simply because that's just a playstyle that can happen, and when it works amazingly. When it doesn't, well, it is a little bit shit, you might die. With 5k life, that is enough to take on just about everything without dying to any sort of one-shots. However, a few hundred more points of life would be amazing. I just couldn't really squeeze it out of this character as a White Wind specifically, so if you went a Raider with, I don't know, some other sort of dagger, maybe the dex stacking, maybe just pure lightning, maybe Hoa, all that sort of shit, and dodge and evasion based, it would still be pretty damn good. White Wind itself just seems a little bit lackluster based off of the 0 crit it has, the attack speed it has, which isn't great, and the fact that it's a dagger, meaning you do have to spec a good few extra points across the passive tree to make things work. All in all, Raider is plenty viable and does seem pretty good compared to Deadeye when you're focusing on the evasion and the dodge, because that's what the onslaught part of the tree does. You can see the strength of it here against the tier 16 Constrictor fight. He's basically not capable of hitting me, and I don't think we ever take damage during this fight. Likewise against the next Guardian, the Eradicator, with lots of spell dodge and a bunch of dodge, he pretty much doesn't ever hit us, and it is a very strong setup defensively when it works, like I said, and with the Vile Spectral Throw, it definitely helps curb some of that single target damage that you would otherwise not have from the dex stacking. So the dex stacking build with Deadeye had a bit more damage. It was more gear required and costly to make work. However, it was probably more worth it in the end. This one, very similar playstyle and definitely something that's completely doable for most people. It is simply the strength of Spectral Throw right now that can let you be very versatile with the skill, with your ascendancy and the way you build it. By no means cold is the only way to go. As I've already mentioned, I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself. There's not too much else to say. say I'm just stalling till this absolutely great phase here where he goes in for the tendril damage, and lo and behold, with the Wise Oak being triple balanced, with my spell dodge being at 50, we can straight up face tank it and not move. And yeah, you can see I was pretty happy with myself about that one. The character also factors in some Vile Pact action with quite a lot of extra life leech from the life leech nodes, so you can see that a lot of the time you do recover life very quickly, and it helps quite a bit to, you know, bolster the face tank, sometimes take damage, and then most of the time take no damage playstyle of dodge and evasion. And this will be the last little clip, and then we'll get straight into the character build, and after that the full Deathless Uber Elder kill. So to go over the character in full, it is just another Spectral Throw character, similar to my Deadeye as I mentioned, currently called Where's My Offhand, level 91 Raider. We did go from 1 to 91 with Spectral Throw quite comfortably, and the build is revolved around the White Wind, or White Wind. As you can see, bunch of elemental damage, so lots of cold, bit of attack speed, some evasion, 20% chance the dodge attack hits while your offhand is empty, and some cold damage while your offhand is empty too. So ultimately, that's not really that great. The damage is very comparable to, let's just say, the dex stacking, or running 2 regular weapons, or even 1 regular weapon. The ultimately goal here is to get a bit of extra dodge, so our character in the long run has 60 dodge, 40 spell dodge, or rather with our quartz flask up, 70 dodge, 50 dodge, 40 evasion, and then a lot more evasion when you have onslaught up, and even more once you actually blind things. So you can see through the path of building, the actual effective rates here are 70 dodge, 50 spell dodge, and 90% chance to evade. Now that factors in when you have onslaught over here, and also when the enemy is blinded. You can see when the enemy is blinded, that increases your evasion chance to a much higher number, and we do permanently blind with the Pandemonious Amulet, which usually I wouldn't try and run, and I try not to put into a build because we do really need a bit more life and stats from our amulet. However, this time around I was going to try and just hit 5k life and maintain from there based off of pure dodge and evasion, which did seem to work out. With 5k life we could take on all endgame content without getting one shot most of the time, though it is still pretty hard to get this 5k life. Most of our gear has a bit of life on it, so we got a bunch of life there. Tomb Fist, of course, with a bit of life on both of the jewels, a belt with lots of life, the Mark of the Elder, a bit of life there, and then of course a really heavy life-based chest, so 140 life, 10% life, a nice temple chest. If you can't get that, which you should be able to, there's lots of these available for pretty cheap. Belly of the Beast serves just fine. Even with all of that, it's still going to be pretty damn tough to break about 5k life, because the actual build itself has 158%. We're very much on the right hand side of the tree, and as a raider, one of the big weaknesses is you do have to spec a lot into frenzies, so that takes up quite a few extra passives, and then on top of that I do have to spec into phase acro, so it's a lot of nodes that aren't life, that aren't damage, they're just kind of in between, though of course frenzy is damage, it's just not your traditional form of damage. So raider passive trees are typically pretty damn bloated, and it's the best we can do to get about 5k life on an evasion character with respectable damage, though if you're going to play something like hardcore with this, you definitely have to make sure you get something like 5.5 to 6,000 life. Otherwise, yeah, it's a pretty basic Spectral Throw character. You do now have Vile Spectral Throw built into Spectral Throw, which helps with single target quite drastically, and you don't have to change it from your sockets or anything. A lot of the time we are running slower proj for single target, though for actual clear you run GMP. You just make a quick little swap from GMP to slower proj, and the other links are Spectral Throw, crit strikes, LE damage with attacks, hypothermia, and added cold. Added cold and ice bite are roughly the same thing for this sort of build, even with all of our frenzies, so I'd rather run added cold where I don't have to worry about 100% frenzy upkeep. However, frenzy upkeep is pretty damn easy given the raider ascendancy here, and also the strength of the onslaught ascendancy. Having that 100% upkeep too means you don't have to run an onslaught flask, and then we run a quartz instead, have a wise oak, an Series promise, and a diamond. But it's the first time I've really ever used a quartz flask, and that does mean we get a lot more dodge and spell dodge, and still have permanent Frenzy, and Onslaught uptime. So other key things to note on the passive tree are we do have Vile Pact, so don't actually degen any life at all through Blood Rage, thanks to being Raider, and our Life Leech is a lot nicer through Vile Pact. All of our Leech comes from here, all of our Mana Leech comes from there, and then we have Point Blank. Now the way Point Blank interacts with Spectral Throw is when you fire forward, for example here, that first line of trajectory is going to have a large increased amount of damage, and then the one coming back is going to have some decreased damage. Overall, it should be about the same for point blank damage, but the first half will do a lot more damage, and that means you can kill things slightly faster through trash clear and all of that. So point blank is typically worth taking for Spectral Throw, and I do recommend it. We then have some Spell Pen over there, or Cold Pen rather. We do have some crit. That's large amount of our crit filled out down here. Have the dagger nodes, the other dagger nodes for crit that you probably would have never seen because daggers are in a shit place right now, and then our dual sockets to try and focus on a bit of attack speed and a bit of crit multi, and some mana gained on hit, which I thought would be rather necessary for the fast attacking Spectral Throw nature, but I don't think it's really gotten to that stage, so Mana Leech by itself should be enough to handle your mana range. And speaking of mana, our actual reservation is just Blasphemy, Assassin's Mark, and Herald of Ice. You can of course fit in probably a Purity of Ice, you can fit in a regular Purity, maybe even an Arctic Armor. With these two reservations, it's all I felt like I really needed for the end game, and managed to take on quite a few Uber Elders with this setup just fine. So the rest of the setup you can see through Path of Building or the gear link in the thread. There's not too much else to really say except Mark of the Elders, pretty damn good these days. If you can get a nice little shaped ring, bunch of accuracy on at least one item helps a lot. Otherwise though guys, this is Spectral Throw. It's been amazing. As always, Spectral Throw is pretty damn amazing and one of my favorite skills. Next time I build around it, it probably won't be cold damage because I've done a couple of those in a row. It will probably be something else, maybe fire, maybe lightning, but you know what, Spectral Throw with the Vile Spectral Throw, definitely one of the best things out there for fun, I think, and playstyle. I hope you guys give it a try in some capacity. Doesn't have to be this build because White Wind, probably a bit underwhelming, and Dodge, little bit here or there. In any case guys, hope you enjoyed the video and the rundown. Here's the Uber Elder kill. Got it Deathless probably 4 times. Did the actual kill maybe 10 times on this character. So yeah. Eventually got it Deathless, though it does definitely take some practice, and it's a pretty good one to practice on, I think. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time. Quiet White Wind makes it good. Nothing makes it particularly good. It's just got dodge, and I'm doing it for the dodge, because I wanted maximum dodge. And we got a fair amount of dodge happening. Got like 70 attack dodge, 50 spell dodge, 95% evasion. I mean, in theory, it's supposed to be tanky. In practice, sometimes not very tanky. Okay, those are the biggest fucking lag spikes the universe has ever seen. As if I was standing in that. See those lag spikes, chat? You can see that spike graph from fucking space. I believe there should be a propagator somewhere. There it is. Nobody panic. Oh, that's pretty good. What the fuck hit me? There's no way that hit me. Wait, what's killing him? Why were those guys dying? What? Did I still have a Val ST going? Like, what happened? Ugh, whatever. Spawn that in a bad spot. Ugh, the double tap. No, man. That wasn't fair. Where did he come from? Ah, he's coming from everywhere. Oh no. Monk ass! The monkers are just getting more and more ass. I'm gonna run out of them at this rate. Ah! I'm overusing monka ass. Ah. If by some miracle nothing keeps fucking up here, get ready to zone in. Oh no, they're both dying. Okay, zone in. Whew, didn't run out of monk asses. Oh look, more nodules.